Hello and welcome to Animerecaps. Today we will recap a 2021 fantasy action anime called Seirei Gensouki Spirit Chronicles. It is adapted from a light novel. The story revolves around a young man who reincarnates in the slum and starts his journey to avenge his mother's death. Spoiler ahead, are you ready? Here we go! The anime opens with a boy Haruto leaving his friend Mei. She's very sad, so Haruto promises to marry her when they meet in the future. Haruto is now old, and as he's traveling on a bus, he meets with an unfortunate accident and dies. In a mysterious setting, Ryo, a teenage orphan, wakes up and recalls his previous existence as Haruto Amakawa, a young Japanese man. He's all confused with his existence and memories from the past life. He goes to wash himself when munching on some berries. Ryo wants to avenge his mother's death and now lives as a poor orphan. A group of arrogant women approach him when Celia asks him politely about a girl who has apparently run away. He gets apprehended after saving Princess Flora from some kidnappers and is believed to be one of them. Later, the knights torture him in an effort to coerce a false confession from him in order to save face after losing the princess, but he resists. Ryo is nearly killed by beatings but is soon exonerated and given a meeting with the king. It's year 991 of the whole year. Ryo gets admitted to the Royal Academy as payment for saving Flora, but because of his peasant upbringing, most of his classmates avoid him there. Only Ryo's instructor Celia offers encouragement. Celia also tells Ryo to not overburden himself while he continues pretending as he doesn't know how to read and write. After the class, Ryo gets some private tutoring class where he cleaners. Celia is only 12 years old and has already graduated. While tutoring Ryo, Celia gets surprised to see his classwork where he has written all the answers correctly. Ryo is the only one except Princess Christina who has answered correctly. Along with a cup of tea, Celia guides him to some good children's books. At Ryo's request, later during sword practice, the instructor brings a test flight with Ryo. He gets impressed by Ryo's excellent swordsmanship, and upon the request of the instructor, Ryo agrees to join the knights. Ryo continues to prepare for the exams in the library even though he just enrolled in the academy. When the exam results come out, everyone gets shocked to see Ryo at the top with Princess Christina. In class, the other boys are jealous of Ryo and blame him for seducing the other girls. Ryo is not being able to use magic, so is given the task of carrying everyone's luggage. On the way, they encounter monsters such as goblins while the orcs attack them. During the fight, Stuart pushes Princess Flora, resulting in her falling off the mountain, but she gets saved by Ryo. However, he falls off the cliff while other students use all their magical powers and fight their best. They plot against Ryo. However, Princess Flora plans to find Ryo even though she has to go alone. Soon, the group are attacked by a giant orc when Ryo defeats the orc monster and runs away before being noticed. All along, a stranger is observing Ryo, believing he's the offspring of a hidden kingdom. Celia overhears Headmaster talking about Ryo's disappearance and plans to blame him for pushing Princess Flora off the mountain. Worried for her student, Celia is waiting in the study when Ryo appears. Celia hugs Ryo with happiness and discusses how the royals have planned to accuse him. As Ryo is wrongly charged with trying to assassinate the princess, he has no choice but to leave the kingdom. In the new town, Ryo finds delicious food that reminds him of Tokyo. He meets Lot, who helps him to buy food for his journey and helps him send a letter to Celia. As Ryo starts his journey once again, he encounters a beast person. Stuart wanted to kill Ryo so that he would never return to the kingdom. And the mission was given to Latifa, a teenage beastkin assassin. Ryo fights back and defeats her by knocking her out. Ryo notices the submission collar and breaks it. When Latifa wakes up, he comes to know the person who made her slave was Stuart, and he has been torturing her with a submission collar. After knowing she didn't intend to kill him, Ryo frees her and leaves her with her equipment. Scared of being left alone, Latifa decides to follow Ryo. They begin their journey together. At night, as Latifa talks about her life, Ryo realizes that Latifa is also a reincarnation of a person from Japan. When the beastkin of the Forest of Spirits believe Ryo has abducted Latifa, they assault him merely because he's human. Ryo attempts to calmly explain, but they don't pay attention and gang up on him, knocking him out. After having a dream in which he encountered a ghost, he wakes up hurt and is received by the community as a gesture of repentance for their discriminatory behavior. Latifa is happy to see Ryo wake up. In the morning, the elder of the community introduces Ryo to the roll tree. The mighty spirit of Dyrus talks to Ryo after he finishes his talk with the other elf elders. The spirit of Daira senses another powerful spirit sleeping inside of Ryo and says the spirit is one of the most powerful one that has long been lost. Ryo is set to go for his ancestral home 1 year later. Latifah is horrified at the idea of being separated from her adopted brother when he informs her, and she flees in tears. When wyverns suddenly start to threaten the forest, Ryo utilizes his newly acquired skills to protect his pals. It's year 998 and Ryo has arrived to Yagumo region 2 months after leaving the bush. He has found his grandma and begins residing in her hamlet. Ryo inquires his grandmother about his parents and she tells him that years ago they left the village. After Ryo gives his grandmother the details about his personal life, she shows him the grave of his parents and promises to tell him everything when the time is right. Upon his grandmother's advice, he decides to stay in the village for a little longer. In the morning, Ryo prepares his breakfast and gets to meet his cousins and kins, namely Sayo, Ruri, and Shin. Ryo, with his magic and kindness, tried to help the villagers, which made others envious of him. One day when Sayo and Ruri are having a bath, they are harassed by 2 men. Shin tries to intervene, but the situation is solved when Ryo's grandmother shows up. That night, as they are sleeping, one of the harassers sneaks into Ruri's room and begins assaulting her, but soon Ryo reappears and beats the man badly. Ryo discovers the truth about his parents' history and is introduced to Yagumo's aristocracy. He uses the occasion to tell his maternal grandparents the horrifying details of his mother's passing and his intense anger for the guy who caused it. He engages in a battle with one of his mother's former guardians and prevails, demonstrating his fortitude and determination to exact revenge on his mother on his grandparents. Ryo stays in the community for a few more months before leaving Yagumo to continue his quest. When he returns to the Forest of Spirits to meet up with Latifah and her companions, he's taken aback when a woman he has never seen before materializes next to him. Ryo calls the mystery woman who appears before him Aisha, referring to her as his guardian spirit. After completing his preparations, Ryo and Aisha return to the Bertram Kingdom, where the royal family lost control following a devastating military defeat. Ryo discovers that his friend and instructor Celia Claire is due to be forcibly wed to Charles Ardor, an old foe of his. Ryo, with the help of Aisha, meets up with Celia again, and she tells him that she has to wed Charles because of politics. She thanks Ryo for seeing her one last time before her marriage and hugs him tightly. But Ryo is undecided about whether or not to call off the wedding. Celia is in love with Ryo, but she lies that she's happy and wants to continue with the wedding. The next day, Celia is introduced with Charles' wives as she's dressed up in her wedding gown. As he leaves, the wives start bullying Celia and she stays quiet. Princess Christina finds the wives being absurd and intervenes. As the wedding carries on, Ryo sees Celia sitting with a heavy heart. He doesn't waste any more time and rushes to rescue Celia as they're about to meet the rest of the nobility and royals. Ryo attacks the army trying to stop him, but he defeats them all. With Celia's blessing and Aisha's assistance, Ryo ends the wedding. The plan went accordingly when Ryo telepathically conveyed this message. Running away, he hands over Celia to Aisha and escapes from all of the guards to come after him. Celia along with Aisha are waiting outside of town for Ryo to arrive. When Ryo arrives, the two are finally reunited, but as they are about to celebrate, they come to see some large lines emerging from the ground. Suddenly, Aisha is seen in the image of me and she requests Ryo to save some people in the mountain. In the ending credits, 3 kids from modern-day Japan are struggling to get a signal. They're kidnapped by the people who wants to sell them as slaves. Ryo notices the group to be suspicious, and when he realizes the men have kidnapped Japanese-speaking people, he swiftly takes action and defeats them. He then frees the kids and notices one of them in me, his childhood friend. If you enjoyed this recap, check out the recaps and drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more anime recaps, turn on the bell notification for future uploads. Thanks for watching. That's it, folks. We have now reached the end of the video. If you enjoyed this recap, please subscribe to the channel and leave the thumbs up. Also, don't forget to turn on the notification bell for more recaps just like this one, and let us know which anime you want to see next in the comments below. Anime Caps here. See you in the next one.